Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Well, in tennis, just a quick commentary. On dwyervip.com, Maria Karolinko absolutely destroyed me tonight, pulling out a 3-set victory over my pick, Radwanska, in that tennis match. So I'm here battered and bruised. The reason why I'm bringing it up is to just point out that gambling is dangerous, right? My bank account is lighter right now than it was just a few hours ago. So weigh my comments against that reality. Nothing is a sure thing. Certainly not the tennis match that I just bet on. Anyway, I also need a commentary on boxing here. I realize that I sound really hard here online, right? This is the wild frontier that is YouTube, right? We're not here trying to kowtow to professional athletes. I'm not here trying to get an interview with a professional athlete, nor am I here trying to sign a professional athlete, right? We're not trying to appeal to cable subscribers who need to buy into ad campaigns based around professional athletes. Right here online, we're just gamblers. I'm going to call it as I see it. Sometimes it'll be with public opinion, sometimes it won't be. But as I criticize the fighters, as I critique the fighters, as I point out strengths and weaknesses, praise and criticism, just understand that I have the utmost respect for each fighter. I recognize that each fighter I talk about is world class, right? If you're a top 10 contender, then according to that sanctioning body, there are only 9 other guys who belong in the room with you, plus the champ, right? You are an elite fighter. So I don't want anyone to feel that I'm saying anyone here has no talent. What I'm saying is that they have holes in their game that you need to look at in handicapping the fight. With that in mind, trying to be as diplomatic as possible, let's talk about this Robert Helenius Michael Sprott fight that's happening soon. Let me just say this about Robert Helenius. In my opinion, and I'll choose my words carefully, he has no inside game. You're talking about a big guy. He's 6'6". He's part of this new wave of heavyweight. Really big. This is post Lennox Lewis, right? And understand, Lennox Lewis was a giant in his day. This Robert Helenius is part of that new big breed of heavyweight who doesn't move that well, who doesn't dance, right? The music has stopped in the heavyweight division. He doesn't dance. He's not up on his toes. His feet are firmly on the canvas. He has one A-plus punch, and it's a right hand. That's the only punch. I think that's dangerous with Robert Helenius early in a fight when the other fighter is guarded. He has a great right hand that he needs to throw from distance. He has an excellent left hook that he can throw when his opponent gets tired. So take a look at the knockdowns of Sam Peter later in that fight. He can land that left, but unlike Vladimir Klitschko, he needs for you to get a little bit tired and a little bit sloppy before he gets the confidence to land that left. But what he can't do, and this is really a broader indictment on many heavyweights right now, including Vladimir Klitschko, is he can't fight you inside. When a guy gets inside of his reach, Helenius reaches forward and hugs the guy, right? What Helenius does not do is he doesn't lower a shoulder and start to dig hooks to the guy's body. Right? He doesn't bend over. There's no Tyson Fury in him. Right? He doesn't literally know how to fight small. If a guy comes inside, he stops throwing punches. Right? Now, if you want to see a premiere on how to fight inside, just look at Andre Ward's work against Alan Green in a fight, quite frankly, that's a classic. Right? Andre Ward gets inside Alan Green, who needs to extend his hands. Doesn't know what to do with Andre Ward. Andre Ward stays inside the entire fight. Right? In the post-fight interview, Ward even went further and said that he got inside, saw that Green didn't know what to do, so he decided to stay inside. Now, Michael Sprott does better against taller fighters. Here's what Sprott needs to do to maximize his effectiveness. Right? You can't fight a Robert Helenius straight. If I come up to you like I'm Powell Wolak or Mike Tyson, right? If I'm too straight, he's going to put his hand, and keep in mind he's 6'6", so he's going to reach over me, put his hand behind my back, and pull me to him. So what I have to do, what great fighters do, is I have to come in at a side profile. In other words, this hand out here needs to stay free. As the guy is trying to grab me, I need to make it harder for him to grab me. It's harder to lean over and grab this side of me when this side isn't a back, but it's actually a right hand that I'm actually moving and trying to hit you with. Right? Also, guys who know how to fight inside will come inside and will bend at the waist. Right? In other words, against a tall, stand-up fighter like Robert Helenius, you want to make your shortness to your benefit. Right? Sergio Martinez does it all the time. Martinez, who's 5'9", 5'10", will bend at the waist, so he's even shorter. Right? So as you come up on Martinez, you can't just tie him up. You don't see Sergio Martinez fights where the other fighter is routinely able to just step forward, put his arm around his back, and tie him up. Right? Sprott needs to come in and be aware of the fact that he has better inside skills than Robert Helenius. Right? And what he needs to do is, unlike Derek Chisora, who kept throwing looping punches, he needs to throw short punches, he needs to keep his hands moving, he needs to bounce, and he needs to come in at angles. If Michael Sprott is able to do that, this fight is going to go several rounds. If Michael Sprott truly is world class, he'll even figure out that all he has to look for on the way in the early rounds is Robert Helenius's right hand. Right? If you look at the Simon Peter fight, Simon Peter, pretty big puncher, you're going to see that Peter literally allowed Helenius to hug him. Right? Mistake. If you look at the Sherman Williams fight, another Helenius fight, I believe it's his last fight, Sherman Williams stays outside against Helenius, whose only chance of beating you is when you're on the outside. That's another mistake. Right? Now, there was a prizefighter match between Matt Skelton and Michael Sprott. And what I like with that match, it's only a 3-round match, is Sprott is inside. The two guys are wrestling. The fight looks sloppy. Maybe it's not aesthetically pleasing, but it was effective. Sprott won that fight, right? And the two guys are basically wrestling inside, and Sprott keeps his hands moving. Understand, Sprott is actually a better fighter than advertised. Yes, he's been knocked out 10 times, but understand, he's only been stopped once since 2008, and that was in the last round of a fight against Audley Harrison that he was winning. right? Now, Sprott also, in addition to outboxing Harrison for most of that fight, understand he was outboxing Edmund Gerber both fights. The first fight, he got a little careless. He got caught up in the moment. Gerber threw a left hook and then came right back with a straight right hand. And you need to be aware of that, because Helenius throws a pretty good right hand. And it knocked Sprott to the canvas. When Sprott got up, he was dazed and confused. But he was also coherent enough for the fight to continue. It's a rough sport. The referee then stopped the fight. Sprott then pushed the referee, who fell to the canvas, and Sprott protested. That got Sprott a rematch with Gerber, incredibly, only in boxing, right? In a world with billions of people. Somehow, the referee who Sprott pushed to the canvas was actually one of the judges for the rematch. How did that happen? Anyway, believe it or not, that referee voted for Sprott in the rematch, as did another judge. Sprott actually beat Gerber in the rematch, outboxing him. Sprott actually has, in my opinion, better boxing skills than Robert Helenius. What he lacks, though, is the punch, right? And we know a puncher doesn't have to win any rounds. He just has to land that one punch at the right time in the right place, and he can win the fight. So here's how I see the fight. Here's how I plan to bet on the fight. And keep in mind, I just lost, well, at least part of my shirt on a tennis match earlier tonight. If the over-under, I haven't seen the odds on this. If the over-under is around 7.5, and I'm guessing Helenius, who is unbeaten and who is overrated, hopelessly so, is going to be a big favorite. If the over-under is 7.5 rounds, put me down for the over, right? I believe Sprott is going to have this fight go a few rounds, right? Let me just say, though, that I'm going to hedge the play with Helenius by KO, right? Because I believe Helenius does have a knockout chance. Understand, he has won some big fights by KO, right? Here's where it gets a little bit dicey. I'm going to stay away from who wins the decision, simply because Helenius got a gift, and trust me, it was gift wrapped, when he allegedly beat Derek Chisora. That fight's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen, right? I don't believe in a close fight they're going to give Helenius any favors. I've seen this in the past, where a fighter wins a controversial fight, Oscar De La Hoya over Sweepy, and then spends the rest of his career losing close fights. De La Hoya against Felix Trinidad, De La Hoya against Shane Mosley. You know, what I've learned is that boxing culture punishes fighters that they feel have gotten gifts in the long term, right? And so I think it's too risky to actually pick a winner in this fight. So I'm going to go on 2 prop plays. I like the over, hedged against Helenius by knockout, right? If Helenius doesn't get the knockout, I don't believe Sprott's going to get the knockout. If Helenius doesn't get the knockout, then it means Sprott is putting on a nice boxing exhibition and is going to make this fight very competitive. Right? Now the negative on Sprott, and it is a negative. You're fighting Audley Harrison. Not exactly the most in-shape fighter I've come across. Not exactly a fighter with the kind of foot speed who's going to force you to fight every second of every round. You actually get time off when you're fighting Audley Harrison, right? This isn't like fighting Vladimir Klitschko. He's not in your face hitting you with a jab, and then as you move back, he's moving forward and he's hitting you with a jab, and you're thinking, gee, this guy's bigger than I thought. How do I get out of his way? How do I avoid this punishment? That's Vladimir Klitschko. Against Audley Harrison, he's hitting you with a jab. You take a couple of steps back, guess what? You're safe and sound, right? You're not, Audley Harrison's going to take 2 minutes to get over to where you are. You can literally fight him when you want to. Audley Harrison almost seems tailor-made for Bernard Hopkins, right? Because he can fight, then he could say, you know what, I'm going to take a breather, take a few steps back, rest for a minute, then step forward and complete the round. So what I don't understand is how Michael Sprott was that tired and that finished in the last round of that fight when he got knocked out, right? I wonder about Michael Sprott's stamina, right? I wonder about Michael Sprott's survival skills, right? So the bet I'm recommending, because I do feel that the underdog, Michael Sprott, is actually the better boxer than Robert Helenius, who is the better puncher, right? And also because Helenius is slick when you're tired. He starts landing a left hand that he doesn't land when you're healthy, right? The bet I'm recommending is the over 7.5 rounds, and look at the over-under. If it's higher than that, if it's 9.5 rounds, don't bet on the fight. But I like the over 7.5 rounds hedged against Helenius by KO. Let me say this too. While Helenius clearly hits hard, right? Sam Peter was not going to get up after 20 seconds, right? Helenius doesn't get as many knockouts as you think. Look at his record, right? Sherman Williams went the distance with Helenius. Derek Chisora went the distance with Helenius, right? And so understand, that big puncher reputation, he does have a big punch. The question is whether he hits you with it enough to knock you out, especially now as he's moving up in class of fighter that he's fighting. I think Sprott has the opportunity here to make Helenius look bad. I like the over hedged against Helenius by KO. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. Let me also say too, Sprott has a bad habit to me of coming in too straight, right? Let's hope that he and his trainer understand that he can't win this fight by having Helenius hug on him, right? He has to come in at the side. Let me also point out too, just a side note in boxing history, you remember Mike Tyson against Bone Crusher Smith. One of the reasons why Bone Crusher Smith was able to hug Tyson for 12 rounds was because Mike Tyson came in too straight, right? Tyson didn't keep a hand free like Andre Ward does when you're inside on him, or like Sergio Martinez and Bernard Hopkins does when you're inside on them. There's an art to fighting and not getting clinched, right? If I were Michael Sprott, I would literally plan on living inside against Robert Helenius, but I would plan on doing so in a way where I'm turned to the side. I always have a hand free. I'm hitting him with this hand. I'm making it clear that he's the one trying to clinch, not me. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Let me also say too, that's one of the problems in the recent Richard Abril Sharif Bogaray fight. Bogaray leaps in, but after Bogaray leaps in, he's there to be grabbed, right? Contrast that with how Sergio Martinez fought Paul Williams, where he's outside and he leaps in and he's throwing punches, and you don't see that many clinches in that first Martinez-Paul Williams fight. Let me hear from you. Thanks for watching. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com.